Welcome on in, all you space refugees. My name is Matthew, and this is the Rebels Refuge. This is our first video in an episodic series based around a massive room build. How big? 1,500 square feet to be exact. And I'm lucky enough that my wife has given me complete control over this space. And you married guys know that's kind of a big deal. The problem with a room build this size, though, is where do you begin? We're looking at making everything from a bunkhouse, a playroom, a bathroom, a multimedia room, and even a lounge that Lando himself would be happy to call his own. But it has to be aesthetically right. It has to feel in universe, and it has to be true to the Star Wars aesthetic. So I've decided I'm going to start right here in this multimedia room. We started building this multimedia room 2 years ago for our two younger boys who love to game and love to watch movies. They each have their own screens, their own consoles. They can listen to music as they want. The room is completely soundproof from upstairs. It even has its own drop-down projector. Everything a kid could possibly want. But it was always missing one thing. It just didn't feel Star Warsy. And that's just not going to do anymore. So I've decided we're going to start right here. And in order to control all these gadgets, we have to make something like a central hub, like a data control center. And that's what's coming up in this week's build.
We're going for a dirty space look in this design with a bit of Falcon styling for wall panels and columns. Having a well laid out plan is vital when planning out a space of this size to make sure the look is cohesive. After sketching, I like to break out individual pieces and lay them out in Adobe Illustrator. This gives me a true size work area in which I can decide the proper scale for each item to be built and fine-tune the design before making a final draft. We'll be using a laser cutter for today's project, but these are very simple shapes and designs that can be made using regular shop tools as well. The trick to a realistic feeling prop is layers, something with dimension to make it not feel like a piece of wood screwed to a wall. MDF is our product of choice. It offers some needed rigidity for this build. It's flat and smooth, and the dust from sanding gets everywhere. That being said, wear a respirator when sanding MDF as the particles are bad news. We need to give this prop a worn out look, and nothing says worn out like chipping paint. Now there are many products that you can use to achieve this look, but there are also many household items that do just as good of a job and usually at a much smaller price point. Here I'm using mustard, but you could also use toothpaste or liquid latex, anything of that sort. The classic Rebel Star Wars look has a splash of color mixed in with the typical space gray, and we aren't going to stray away from that in our build. Besides, all that Empire stuff is really shiny and clean, and if you have kids like I do, you'd need a UX-53 auto polisher droid to keep up with all the added maintenance. Maybe we'll build one of those anyway. We're using 6 pre-wired LEDs and soldered their cathode legs together. We then attached spade terminals to the end of those anode legs and landed our wires onto this small screwed terminal. From there, we took our wires and screwed them into the corresponding pin on our Arduino Nano. Our Nano is programmed with a really simplistic code to give us random blinking lights. I will leave a copy of that code you see here in the description below. Now, since we were using a tablet as our monitor, I wanted to have readily available access to remove it if need be, and I didn't want to have to remove screws every time that I wanted to take it out. So I used my favorite trick to hold the pieces together: the force. Well, actually, they're just a few magnets, but they work great for this and many other projects where mechanical fasteners just aren't practical. One of my absolute favorite items to use in these prop builds is wire loom. It just fits with the space look so naturally. For this part of our build, I wanted to try and use it in a different way though. So I fashioned it into a bezel for our monitor. Now this loom is pulling double duty, both to give a more built-in look to our tablet and to also hold it tightly against the back of the panel so it doesn't move when it's interacted with. I love these Sharpie oil paint pens. The silver one works great to add scratches and give a metallic look to our weathered items. That's right, folks, it's Greeblie time. Now I wanted to pre-install this top panel so I could see it in the space before I made any final choices on what look I wanted to go with. I don't know if you can see it on the screen there, but that's Brian from the Smuggler's Room. I'm watching his channel for a little bit of inspiration. You should go check out his channel for more great builds. My guess is, though, if you're watching this video and my channel, you're well aware of who Brian is already. It's time to weather. I'm using a water mixable oil here as is standard when trying to get that space grease look. This helps to give your props and pieces a backstory. On this specific piece, I just slathered it on everything and dabbed it off with a thick shop towel. We're going for a found and reused pieces look in this build. Thanks to James over at the Rebel Base Build for this tip to reduce hot spots on your LEDs. Just a bit of packing foam. I'm using hex head screws here for that industrial panel look. It gives a feeling of a larger computer machine behind these access panels, and it's just one more item to help us sell the story.
Well, there you have it. This was a fun build to get us started on this huge project, and I can't wait to bring you more videos, not just on the room build, but props and cosplay items in the future. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you next time when we make something out of this world.